Have you ever noticed that saying yes to everyone else feels easier than saying yes to yourself? Maybe someone asked for another favor, another hour of your time, another piece of your energy, and even though you were already exhausted, you still said, of course. But the moment you thought about resting, canceling a plan, or simply choosing yourself, something inside you whispered, "You're being selfish." That quiet voice has probably followed you for years. It convinces you that being a good person means always being available, always giving, always understanding, always sacrificing, until one day, you no longer know the difference between kindness and self-abandonment. Here's the truth that few people ever tell you. If choosing yourself immediately makes you feel guilty, that guilt may not be coming from your heart. It may be coming from years of conditioning, years of believing that your needs should always come last. And if that sounds painfully familiar, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may finally understand why protecting your own peace has always felt so difficult. No one is born feeling guilty for taking care of themselves. We learn it, sometimes from childhood, sometimes from the people we love the most. You may have been praised only when you were helpful, only when you were quiet, only when you made life easier for everyone else. Without realizing it, your brain began connecting love with sacrifice, acceptance with obedience, worth with usefulness. So every time you put yourself first, it felt like you were risking something much bigger. Not just disappointing someone, but losing love, losing approval, losing the identity you had spent years building. That's why guilt can feel so powerful. It isn't just an emotion. It's a survival response. Your mind isn't asking, "Is this healthy?" It's asking, "Will I still be accepted if I stop giving?" And because that question has lived inside you for so long, you rarely stop to ask another one. What do I actually need? Instead, you automatically check everyone else's needs first. You scan the room. You solve problems before they're spoken. You apologize, even when you've done nothing wrong. You carry emotional weight that nobody ever asked you to carry. Not because someone forced you, but because somewhere along the way, you began believing that this was the only way to deserve your place in the world. The saddest part isn't that you keep saying yes. It's that after enough years, you forget you ever had a choice. Your own desires become strangely unfamiliar. Someone asks, "What do you want?" And your mind goes silent. Not because you don't have dreams, but because you've spent so long translating everyone else's needs that you've forgotten your own language. You become incredibly skilled at reading other people's emotions. You notice tiny changes in their voice, their face, their mood. You know exactly when someone is disappointed, exactly when someone is upset. But when it comes to yourself, you can no longer tell the difference between being tired and being empty, between kindness and self-abandonment, between love and emotional obligation. This is how people slowly disappear, without ever leaving the room. They still smile, they still work, they still answer messages, they still take care of everyone. From the outside, their life looks completely normal. But inside, they are becoming a stranger to themselves. And perhaps the most heartbreaking moment is when you finally have time for yourself, yet you no longer know what brings you peace. Not because peace is impossible, but because you've spent so many years earning everyone else's approval, that you've forgotten how to simply belong to yourself. Here's something few people ever tell you. You were never born to make everyone comfortable. Somewhere in life, many of us learned that love had to be earned. By being useful, by being reliable, by never causing trouble, by becoming the person everyone could count on. So we confused acceptance with performance. We believed, if I keep giving enough, they'll never leave. If I never disappoint anyone, I'll finally feel safe. But love built on constant self-sacrifice isn't really peace, it's survival. Real peace begins the moment you stop treating your worth like something you have to prove every single day. The people who truly love you don't need you to carry every burden. They don't expect perfection. They don't need you to smile through every wound. Only your fear does. And fear has a very convincing voice. It tells you that saying no makes you selfish, that resting makes you lazy, that asking for help makes you weak. But none of those things are true. Sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is disappoint someone else, instead of abandoning themselves, because every time you betray your own needs to protect someone else's expectations, you quietly teach yourself that your own life matters less. No one deserves to live that way, not even the strongest person in the room. Healing rarely begins with a dramatic decision. More often, it begins with a quiet permission. The permission to pause. The permission to say, "Not today." The permission to admit, "I'm tired," without feeling ashamed, without explaining yourself, without believing you've failed someone. You don't have to stop being a caring person. You don't have to become cold, or distant, or stop loving the people around you. The goal isn't to care less. The goal is to stop disappearing while you're caring for everyone else. Imagine treating yourself with the same patience you offer a friend, the same understanding, the same compassion, the same forgiveness. You would never tell someone you love that they must earn the right to rest. So why do you say that to yourself? Perhaps because you've lived with that belief for so long. It started to sound like the truth, but it never was. The truth is, your needs matter before you become exhausted. Your feelings matter before they become unbearable. Your peace matters, even when nobody else understands it. The people who truly belong in your life will learn to respect your boundaries, and the people who only valued your constant sacrifice may not. That can be painful, but losing a role is not the same as losing yourself. Sometimes, it's the first step toward finally finding yourself again. If this message found you today, perhaps it's because you've been carrying a kind of guilt that never truly belonged to you. The guilt of resting, the guilt of saying no, the guilt of choosing yourself. But what if the life you've been searching for doesn't begin with doing more? What if it begins the moment you stop apologizing for being human? You don't have to earn your place in this world. You don't have to prove your worth by giving away every piece of yourself. The people who truly love you will still love you, even when you choose to rest, even when you protect your peace, even when you say, "I can't today," because real love doesn't disappear the moment you create a healthy boundary. And if it does, perhaps it was never love that kept you there. Perhaps it was fear. So tonight, before you close your eyes, ask yourself one quiet question. If I stopped trying to deserve love, who would I become? Don't rush to answer. Just sit with the question. Sometimes, healing doesn't begin with finding the perfect answer. It begins the moment you finally ask the right question. And maybe, that quiet question will become the beginning of a life where choosing yourself no longer feels like something you have to feel guilty about.